Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Rose, your PMDD relationship expert. So today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is setting healthy boundaries for your PMDD relationship. So have you ever felt angry or hurt because of something that your PMDD partner has said or did, and it caused you stress and made your PMDD symptoms even worse? I know I've been there so many times where I'm already waking up in PMDD. I have really bad symptoms, but whenever I have disagreements or arguments with my partner, I swear it makes my symptoms worse, specifically with feeling muscle tightness, specifically with not being able to sleep. So my insomnia is worse. All of these things make me feel like my relationship is actually a burden when I'm in PMDD because I feel like I'm just trying to survive the PMDD. And then now I also have the stress from the relationship. So it causes me to what I think is like flare ups with my normal PMDD symptoms. So today we're going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries that can help reduce your PMDD symptoms that are magnified when you're stressed. And it can also deepen the connection with your PMDD partner. So let me just give you a little background about what happens to your body when you're in PMDD and you're stressed from your intimate relationships. So when you're stressed due to conflicts with your PMDD partner, the nervous system instructs our body to release something called a stress hormone. This can be adrenaline, noradrenaline, or cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So these produce physiological changes that help us to cope with the threat of danger, because when our body thinks that we're in danger or we're stressed, we get into these fight or flight responses. So have you ever had your heartbeat, raise a lot when you are in PMDD because you're having an argument, or you feel like the rage that you're going through is causing your body to heat up or your heart rate to increase? That's when the fight or flight response is actually activated. So this is a good indication that you're actually being stressed to the max. So when we experience stress too often, like the days that we're in PMDD, or for too long, or even when the negative feelings are so overwhelming that we don't have the ability to cope with the normal stress, that's when the real problems are going to come up. So if you continuously activate the nervous system, experience the stress response, it causes a wear and tear on the body. If you experience that stress for long periods of time, it starts to wear your body down. So I know that we are in PMDD. I know for me, it used to be about 10 days, but now it's a full 14 days where my nervous system is being activated from stress, not inclusive of anything that's going on in my intimate relationship, but continuous activation of the nervous system. That's when the real problems start to occur. So cortisol is released in our bodies and it suppresses the immune system. So if you find yourself constantly getting sick, it's because your immune system is actually weakened from you being stressed because of the disagreements or the arguments or whatever's going on in your intimate relationship. It's actually impacting your immune system. So I know so many times when we think about having disagreements or arguments with our partner, we're just thinking it's an emotional thing. It's like, I'm not feeling good in the moment, and that's it. We think it's a mental thing. This is actually a physiological thing. It actually impacts your immune system and your ability to fight off illness. So if you have anything going on, if you're in an environment, especially now with COVID going around and all of these strains and everything, your immune system is actually getting weakened as your stress is heightened. So another thing that I want you to understand is that the muscle tension, which is one of my main symptoms that I have during PMDD, that stress that is caused from having the disagreements with my partner, it actually causes the muscle to tense up because it's a natural way that our body is trying to protect ourselves from the injury or the pain or the dangerous thing that your body feels is happening. Your body feels like it needs to protect you. So it causes everything to tense up. So if you find yourself continuously having bodily aches and pains when you're in PMDD, specifically in your shoulder and your neck, I know that's where I hold mine, also within my traps, and it can cause tension headaches or even migraines. This is something that is your body's way of trying to protect you, but it causes your symptoms to be so much worse. So if you already have muscle tension, which I do when I'm in PMDD, then if you're having these disagreements with your partner, it's actually magnifying them and then causing it to be more frequent. I don't know about you, but if you've ever waken up after you've had a bad argument with your partner the night before, and then you wake up the next day and your body just feels really tense, that's because the whole time where you were sleeping, where it's supposed to be a situation where you're relaxing and allowing your body to rest and rejuvenate, your body was actually in protective mode. It was tensing up to protect from the danger, which was caused by the stress, which was caused by the tension in your intimate relationship. So what can happen when you're feeling that kind of tension? You can also feel more tired. So I know fatigue is a big symptom that most of us have. That's normally like a central symptom that we all have because your body is going through so much. So it's normal to feel like your body's going to be dragged down. You're going to feel fatigued. You're going to feel more tired. I know when I'm in PMDD, I can sleep for like 14 to 16 hours and still not feel completely rested. So when the stress hormone is activated, your body is tensing up for so long, it takes a lot of energy for your body to have to do that. So that in itself is causing you to have all of the more PMDD symptoms to be magnified. So another way that the arguments or disagreements that you have within your PMDD relationship can affect your body is the mood swings. So when we have mood swings, we feel more irritable. Certain things bother us. This is also very common within PMDD without having issues within our intimate relationship. But what happens is when you're constantly being activated by issues that you have with your partner, you're getting the mood swings and your partner is getting the brunt of it. So however you react to those mood swings, the rage, the irritability, all of that, your partner is taking that on and it's actually affecting your intimate relationship. So it can cause you guys to have sleepless nights or even have, difficulty connecting at all. You kind of want to avoid your partner the whole time because you start to feel like, okay, because of these arguments and disagreements that I'm having with my partner, it's causing me to want to stay away from my partner because I'm wanting to stay away from the symptoms. So what you end up doing is associating your PMDD symptoms with your PMDD partner. And that creates a rift in your intimate relationship because it causes you to want to be further apart from your partner instead of closer together. So when you're already in PMDD and you're dealing with the stress of your symptoms that you normally have every month, adding to that stress can be detrimental to your nervous system. And so that's why I want to put in place these boundaries within your PMDD relationship, because once you have these healthy boundaries, then it can cause you to be closer to your partner during PMDD and then also your symptoms to be lessened, because we all know that when we feel better, then we react better to our partner. So the more symptoms we have, the worse we are towards our partner, the worse we can't be there for them in the way that they need. So we can find a way to lessen our symptoms. Then the way that we approach our partner allows us to be more connected. So usually when the stress subsides, the body rebalances itself and we begin to feel calm again. Have you ever gone through, actually, this normally happens when we come out of PMDD, when the stress of the symptoms and the stress of everything we've been dealing with our partner has gone away. And then all of a sudden we look at our partner completely differently, because we don't have that cortisol, that stress hormone pumping through our body, causing us to feel all this tension and stress. So then we can look at our partners and feel loving again. And so I know so many times it can be so miraculous to wake up and look at my partner and not have the symptoms, and it'd be completely different. Like the day before, I can be like, oh my goodness, I want to stay, away from my partner because I don't want these symptoms. And then the next day when the symptoms are gone, everything's back to normal and I feel so loving and I want to be so connected and I just want to be there in my partner's presence. And it's crazy how just these symptoms can cause you to want to be either away from your partner, or when the symptoms are gone, you want to be closer to your partner and feel more connected. So these boundaries are basically guidelines about setting expectations about the availability and the energy that you're going to be dispensing when you're in, specifically when you're in PMDD. So a good way to deal with this is to talk about these boundaries when you're not in PMDD. You need to communicate how you feel, and basically allow you to feel okay with not overcommitting to anything when you're in PMDD. So I know that within a relationship outside of PMDD, your partner can have certain expectations, and it can really cause an issue when those expectations are not met. When you're in PMDD, your partner can feel neglected, your partner can feel abandoned. And as I've told you before, when your partner does not feel loved and they feel abandoned, they normally don't act lovingly. And you can kind of sometimes react to the symptoms of that. Basically, you're reacting to their reaction of them not feeling loved. And that's not the core of them. That's not who they are. But sometimes we can tend to make lifelong decisions, deciding to break up with our partner because of how our partner is acting when they're just not feeling loved. So the goal is not to break up with your partner and to disconnect. The goal is to connect, but then also have those boundaries in place. So they don't have to be hard, aggressive rules where you're creating this rigid, non-fluid part of your partnership, but it allows you to be transparent with your partner about how you feel. And you need to be able to do that when you're in PMDD. So many times you want to disconnect and isolate yourself from your partner when you're in PMDD, and you're expecting them to understand. How many times have you thought to yourself, they know I am in PMDD. They should just know how I feel. They should just know that I don't want to be bothered. They should just know that I don't want to be touched. They should just know, they should just know, they should just know. Well, when you shut down communication and you isolate yourself, even if you've told them before, they need to know in that moment, hey, and this is something that I've had to practice. Like, I love you. I adore you. I want to be with you. I am in this relationship. I am completely committed. At this time, I'm not available for blah, blah, blah. Then you can say specifically what it is that you cannot give to your partner at that specific time, but don't let it be where they have to figure things out. Because when your partner gets in their head and they have to just kind of figure out how things are without you telling them, they can go to some very weird conclusions. And it's because they just don't know and they just want to get some kind of clarity within their mind. So a way to combat them coming at you with all of these assumptions and all of these scenarios that they've made up in their minds, you can just be transparent and say, hey, this has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with PMDD right now. This is what I'm specifically going through. And one thing that I found that is a great way to set this boundary is to say these words: I love you and I am suffering right now. When you let your partner know that you're suffering, that creates a certain level of grace and compassion on their part. They're not so much looking at you for what you're not doing. If your partner really loves you and is invested in you, when you literally tell them, I'm suffering right now. And it's not so much about going through the list of symptoms that we have going on at the moment. You're just letting them know on a level of, I'm not okay. I know a lot of times I used to not talk about my symptoms with my partner because I didn't want it to be like a Debbie Downer, especially if my partner was like in a really good mood. And so I wouldn't say. So in his mind, maybe he thought I was completely fine. But when he started to want things that I would normally freely give him within the relationship, I started to feel so much pressure and resentment and all of these things. But it's like, how can I expect him to read my mind and know that I'm suffering if I haven't told him that I'm suffering. So that's when I turned the page and I said, okay, avoiding talking about PMDD when I'm in it is not a thing. So I need to just go ahead and communicate it and let him know I'm suffering right now, but this is what I can do. And this is, do something loving. You can't just take the cards off the table and say, I'm suffering, so I'm going to do nothing. There has to be some negotiation and some compromise about maybe you can't be full on like you normally are. Maybe you can't go to a lot of events, but when you know the core love language of your partner, you have to be able to give them something in that specific area. So my partner's love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. So I know a lot of times if I'm feeling cringy, if I'm feeling like all of these symptoms within my body, it may not be one of those times where I feel like I really want to be intimate because I have all of these symptoms going on in my body, but I will reinforce that with words of affirmation. I have to give my partner something, and you have to give your partner something. You cannot expect to starve them and expect for them to survive. So setting the boundary of literally saying, I can't give you this, but I can give you this is a great way for your partners to still feel loved, for you to still feel connected. And the word boundary it can be interpreted as pushing your partner away. So it's not about pushing your partner away and telling them what you're not going to do. It's basically an invitation to let your partner know more about you and what you need during PMDD and what your partner needs. So I know a lot of times when we think about what we need during PMDD, we're always so freely telling our partner, I need this, I need this, I need you not to do this, I need you to do this, all of these things, because we're feeling like we need a lot, which we do during PMDD. But what you need to keep in mind is that what does your partner need? What does your partner need when you're in PMDD? Have you had that conversation with them and saying, look, I know that you may not get the full benefits package of our intimate relationship while I'm in PMDD, but what are the things that you specifically need while I'm in PMDD? And I know for a lot of partners, it's assurance. And that can come in so many different forms, assurance verbally, assurance physically. I know that with my partner, if I'm not physically touching him, it doesn't have to be full on sex or anything, but if I'm not looking at him lovingly, if I'm not touching him in some way, then he'll start to get insecure. And those insecurities is again a reaction to where he gets defensive. And there's so many things that can happen once your partner starts going down that rabbit hole of feeling unloved, of feeling abandoned. In a way that you can avoid that is to give your partner what you need. So some of the benefits of setting these healthy boundaries in your PMDD relationship is to take responsibility for your mental health and your partner's mental health, and make sure that you know that at the forefront of your relationship, you don't want to damage their mental health in the process, and you don't want to continually make yours worse. So with PMDD, we have so much that we're already going through. You don't want to add to anything that's going to be detrimental to our mental health. Also, you want to give your partner a safe space to be transparent and vulnerable. And I know that this can be really, really hard for some partners who may not want to open up and say exactly how they're feeling because of the way the PMDD symptoms are affecting the intimate relationship. My partner is amazing at this. He will literally say, I'm feeling insecure because you're not doing this, and this is how it's making me feel. On the flip side, it is my job to be open and create that safe space and to not judge and to not tell my partner, you shouldn't feel like this because I'm in PMDD. I know so many times it's so tempting for us to say that. And I know that we probably all said that, was like, it's not even personal. It's not even about you. It's my PMDD. Like, you kind of feel like, oh my God, how did you possibly make this about you? Like, I'm going through all these symptoms, and now you're over here telling me that because I don't want to cuddle with you or I don't want to do anything, that all of a sudden I don't love you. And you're like, I'm just hot. I'm burning up, or I can't sleep, or I have really bad anxiety, or it makes me cringe, it makes my skin crawl, like all of these things. But your partner doesn't know that. Your partner's not in your body. So you have to be able to be open and communicate and be understanding and just take it and say, you know what, I understand how my actions are making you feel that way. And that's a hard pill to swallow, to take responsibility for the reactions of your PMDD partner, but it is a thing. And it is something that I've had to do within my intimate relationships, where I'm like, it's not so much as my partner's just coming out of nowhere having these symptoms or saying like he feels a certain way, or he feels insecure, he feels abandoned, he feels neglected. Like, it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. It's like, no, I'm actually not paying him any attention right now because I'm in pain, because I'm suffering. And I have to take responsibility for what I do and what I don't do, because at the end of the day, you're still in an intimate relationship, whether you have PMDD or not. And there's still a level of responsibility that is tied to that. And so unless you're willing to release your partner and say, I'm not in a place where I can be in a relationship, and release them, if you're still trying, which I believe we all are, because I believe that we genuinely want to have a supportive, healthy relationship while we have PMDD, we still have to remember that we're committed to our partners, and there's certain things that are tied to that commitment. And it's okay. Again, if you're not full on, I'm not telling you that you have to do all the things that you do when you're not in PMDD. That's unrealistic. I'm saying that you have to be transparent about what you can do, and that's going to cause you to grow trust and get closer together with your PMDD partner. So when we're talking about the boundaries, it is a process of learning your own needs during PMDD and learning what your partner needs. So that's the first step. It's just acknowledging that, like, hey, there are some things that we need when we're both in because you're both in PMDD because you're both affected, but there are some things that we need, and let's talk about that. And I really encourage you to do it when you're not in PMDD. Really encourage you to do it, because sometimes when you are in it, it's too overwhelming, and your outlook on the whole topic of boundaries is going to be really negative, because you're going to feel like, I really don't have that much to give, so you need to take this crumb and be happy about it. Like, I remember thinking like, you're lucky I'm still here and I haven't like gone to a hotel and checked myself in and just left there for 10 days. Like, that's how you said feel. And it's super bad, because you're feeling like, I mean, you should be happy with this because I'm still here. But no, you have to be open and honest and say, this is what I can give. Have that conversation with your partner, and then invite your partner to literally just be open and be like, hey, how is this really affecting you? Sometimes you don't know what your partner is going through, your PMDD partner is going through, because you haven't asked. And then set the boundaries. Don't set the boundaries and go and tell them, this is what we're going to be doing, in a very directive way. You need to negotiate, and you need to make sure that whatever boundaries that you put within your PMDD partnership, that it is mutual, that at the end of the day, you're both going to be getting what it is that you need, because that is the goal of being in a partnership. And then you need to pay attention where you might feel some resentment, some guilt, or some anger towards your partner. You need to get to the root of that. This is a lot of what we do in our sessions with my private clients, is that when you're going into PMDD and you already have residual resentment or anger towards your partner, it tends to come out. It's kind of like, you know how they say when people are drunk, they just do whatever it is that they really want to do, but now they have the courage to do it. Well, all of that resentment and that anger that you may have towards, maybe you feel like you're doing too much in the relationship, and then when you're in PMDD, you just let it all out. You know what I mean? You're just like, I'm not doing anything, and you don't appreciate me. Like, it all comes out because that boundary, it just comes down, where you don't have as much compassion because you're dealing with so much, and which is very understandable. Or you may have some guilt. I know a lot of times PMDD partners, we have guilt towards how we are treating our partner when we're in PMDD and we come out of it. And there's so much guilt towards that. So when you're going back towards being with your partner and you're not in PMDD, you're still cautiously approaching them because you feel like crap. You feel like, man, I really crossed the line this time. I shouldn't have done that. And so maybe your partner doesn't open up as much as they did before because you've done some things within, PMDD that you are not specifically proud of. So when we're talking about these boundaries, I want you to focus on you. And here's an example of how you can phrase that when you're having the conversation about boundaries with your PMDD partner. You can say something like, it was great to spend time together this weekend. I would like to decompress alone for the rest of the night. Can we get lunch, tomorrow and kind of continue this and everything like that? Like, if you're a person who needs that personal time during PMDD, this is the example of setting boundaries with giving a little but still taking care of yourself. So you know that you're going to want that time when maybe you want to sleep in, maybe you want to go binge on Netflix. I've done that plenty of times, or Hallmark movies or all of these, like you just want that time. And so you compromise by maybe having dinner together. And then you just say, hey, I really enjoyed having dinner together. Would you mind if I just go and just watch TV? Like, I'm just going to watch TV and I don't really want to, I'm just trying to decompress. I'm just trying to relax. You're letting your partner know that the fact that you're about to go in the room, close the door, turn the lights off, turn the TV on, and watch Netflix for God knows how long has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you, and you just trying to decompress. That transparency can allow your partner to not feel neglected, not feel abandoned, not have those thoughts of, I can't believe she just went in there. What about me? What about me? What about me? You're giving them what it is that they need. And then you're also allowing yourself to give yourself what you need. Because how many times have you not given yourself what you needed to sacrifice for your partner because you felt guilty? You're like, oh, well, I can't just leave them. And so you spend all this time with them. You go do all of these things while you're in PMDD that completely drains you, stresses you out. And then you end up with your symptoms being worse. And then you resent your partner for it. Whereas they might have been having a good time and, they're getting their needs met, but in exchange for you resenting them. And so you need to make sure that there's a healthy balance. And this is where the boundary comes in. It's like, I'm going to spend time with you, but then I'm also going to spend time with myself. And I'm asking that you respect that. And then that's it. Another way that this can work is if you are in a disagreement with your PMDD partner during PMDD, and you can feel your stress levels going up, your cortisol levels going up, you can feel yourself, basically the rage coming in. This is a healthy boundary that's going to help your PMDD symptoms. In order to continue this discussion, I need to be calmer. Tell that to your partner. If we're going to continue this conversation, I need to be regulated. So I use the phrase of being emotionally regulated. That may not resonate with your partner. Whatever word that means calm, that means your nervous system is down. That means the stress hormone is not activated extensively. You need to communicate that to your partner versus still trying to stay in the fight. And that's a healthy boundary that's going to cause you to not go into a full-on rage argument, because I know that the more and more you talk about the thing that you're disagreeing with, the more and more you get upset, the more and more your nervous system is activated and you're in that fight or flight mode. And I know from experience that a lot of times when you're in PMDD, it's more fight than flight. At least it is for me. I'm like way more aggressive when I'm in PMDD than when I'm not. Like, a lot of stuff that would normally not even bother me when I'm not in PMDD really bothers me when I'm in PMDD. So just taking a break and choosing not to engage in that argument will save you with your PMDD symptoms that will last for days. Another thing to say, if you're in just a regular conversation and you're triggered, you're emotionally triggered. So this is a situation where you're not exactly activated, you just feel a little twinge. You're talking with your partner and they say something and you're just like, huh, like, that didn't sit well with me. And that can be the fork in the road. So where you go completely down and you allow the ego to come in and you're like, how dare you talk to me like this? Like all of these things that are going on in your mind, or even if you say it out loud, you can set the healthy boundary of saying, pausing before you start all that negative talk in your mind and said, I feel attacked when my point of view isn't considered, and I need some space to feel heard and understood. So you're letting your partner know that, hey, something you said basically triggered me. I need a minute. I need to either calmly express how I was feeling, or how what I said was misconstrued, or I need to get some clarity. You pause it before you go down that rabbit hole. So I know a lot of times for me and my partner, what we've been able to do is take that space and we can text each other. Texting is a good form of getting your point across to where your partner can actually view it, but you're not actually saying it. Because I know a lot of times once you're both emotionally regulated, or not regulated, you're aroused, you're triggered, basically, things that you're saying is they don't hear it. They're defensive. They're constantly like, oh, here we go again. Like they're not receiving it. But if you create that space and allow them to just see, through an email, through a text message, or even write it down handwritten, then you can be able to see their point of view. And then sometimes when you see one word or one phrase or one sentence that happened within the argument, you're like, oh, so they didn't mean that. So I just took it that way. And that's why, like, creating that space before it goes too far gone, before you're calling each other names, or not even names, but just saying that their actions are rude, manipulative, conniving, like you're using all of these really harsh words when that may not be your partner's intent. And then a lot of times, I know for me, when my character is in question, like all bets are off. That's when I'm most offended, when you turn my good actions into something to where you assume that they were negative because of how we perceive them. So perception is reality. And we're in a PMDD partnership, like you can be saying something and your tone may be completely different because you're in PMDD, because you have these symptoms. And it can come off a different way that you didn't even mean it. And then next thing you know, you're in a disagreement with your partner. So just letting them know and giving yourself space and clarity on what exactly is your intent for the things that you said is a really healthy boundary to cause you to not get into that disagreement. So a lot of times when going back to that, creating that safe space, once you are opening up the discussion to talk about these things, and you want to create these boundaries to where maybe your partner asks you to do something and you don't want to do it because you know that it's going to cause stress for you, and it's not a compromise that you can actually handle while you're in PMDD. Say if your partner wants you to go out to dinner with them and a bunch of friends, you already know that during PMDD, you don't like to be very social. You can say something like, thank you so much for wanting to spend this time together, but I really need some time to decompress. Or thank you for inviting me to spend time with your family, but I would like to spend some time, and I would like to spend some time with them. And feel free to leave when I feel tired. So this is a situation where you can either you can say, thank you for wanting me to come with you, but I'm not going to be able to make it. Like I want to spend some time decompressing with myself. Or you can say, thank you for inviting me. And I do want to spend some time with them, but I need to feel free to leave when I feel tired, or when I feel like I've had enough, or I need to go back. So this is letting your partner know that, hey, I'm going to go with you, but it may not be all night long like it normally is when I'm not in PMDD, or something like that. And that, I think your partner can really respect and understand that, because you're being upfront and clear with them, and you're not assuming that they're just supposed to understand. So the basis of setting healthy boundaries is transparency, openness, honesty, and creating that safe space. the intent of creating this healthy boundary with your PMDD partner is not controlling the other person. It's just making sure that you are being clear on what you can do and what you're not able to do. So one thing that I want to make sure that you avoid when you're doing these healthy boundaries is controlling the other person. So that's not a healthy boundary. So an example of this is you can't salsa dance with others because I get jealous. So that reflects a lack of trust and attempts to maintain control over the other partner and an insecurity that that partner has. So a healthy boundary within your PMDD partnership is not designed to control the other person. They're about what makes you feel most comfortable, but not about trying to control the other person. So boundaries are there to respect the person and allow you to grow closer together, not to create resentment because your partner is trying to control what it is that you do and what you don't do. Remember, the goal of this is to make sure you and your PMDD partner are connected while you are in PMDD and while you are not in PMDD. Creating these healthy boundaries are going to deepen the connection because your partner is going to feel like they can come to you with whatever it is that they're feeling, whether you're in PMDD or you're not, and they don't have to hide in a hole and just hold everything in, and then it just one day come out in a very aggressive, bad way. So I hope that these healthy boundary tips have really, really helped you, because I want all of you who are dealing with PMDD and even the partners who are dealing with PMDD to have the healthy relationship that you deserve and desire, because we need that support. So this is not something that I don't believe that we should have to do PMDD alone. And I know how frustrating having a PMDD partnership can be, where you can start to think that maybe it would just be easier if I stayed single. I'm letting you know that there is a way to have a supportive and healthy relationship with your PMDD partner. And if that's something that you specifically need help with, I am accepting private clients, couples, or just the individual that has PMDD. If you want to book a session with me, you can go to my website at www.inlovewithpmdd.com, or you can message me on Instagram at inlovewithpmdd. I am here as your PMDD relationship expert to make sure that you have the supportive relationship that you desire and deserve. And remember, have grace for everything that you're going through in your PMDD partnership. The fact that you're still putting forth effort and you're still trying to stay connected with your PMDD partner, that's admirable. So don't beat yourself up over your actions that you've done every month, but do take the tools that I'm giving you and begin to implement them into your PMDD partnership. You got this.